don't know if you've noticed this, but every time I go on Furry YouTube, there only seem to be a few archetypes that content creators seem to fit into. Like, I'm sure you can name a couple already. Most channels do fit into these neat little boxes, but there really aren't any that think outside of the box. Or at least I can't see them. Hey guys, it's Arenthio here again. For today's video, I'll be talking about the different types of furry YouTubers, and the pros and cons of each of them. Pretty much every community has some level of homogeneity, but really the only differences are to what degree content is similar, and if thinking outside of the box in a given community is rewarded or not. Like, a couple good examples you may be familiar with are Minecraft and Roblox. Oh no, Geech! Anyways, pretty much all the user-generated servers on both games fit a very specific template. Like in Minecraft, you may only have mini-games and factions, while on Roblox, you have the typical battle royales and tycoons. But both games sometimes reward creativity if the content is good enough. The furry community seems to be a little different in the sense that content that is outside of the box never really is rewarded, just from what I see with other people.
And I'm not your average YouTuber. Here, I do things a little bit different. Yay! Yay!
Anyways, let's define these boxes within the furry community. Well, I guess you could separate furry content creators into 3 categories. First of all, you have the fursuit YouTubers, which I would honestly say is the majority, at least from what I see. And the second category, I guess the category that yours truly would fall into, would be, I guess you would call rant-sonas, commentators, honestly, whatever you may want to call us. And the third category, something that I really had to think about to begin with, are the animation channels. They're not necessarily something I would have noticed firsthand. Like, given the amount of traffic they get, I would assume that I would have noticed earlier. But anyways, given that, they're a big part of the community regardless. Also, I know that furry gamers do exist, but I won't cover them as a self-contained group because currently, from what I see, it's usually used as a supplement for the first 3 categories I mentioned earlier. I may be stereotyping a bit, but I'll be generalizing for the sake of the ease of understanding. Fursuit YouTubers and general YouTubers are pretty much synonymous at this point. They're the most conspicuous in the community, and their branding is powerful to the point where they're pretty much inescapable. But when it comes to influence, I honestly think it's a mixed bag. Like, when people look at these big YouTubers, they assume that it's some kind of gravy train, right? Like, oh, if I make low-effort videos wearing a fursuit, I'll get a bunch of clout. But honestly, I would say it's more complicated than that. Like, just from my experience, there are a lot of people that are doing fursuit YouTube channels, right? A lot of them don't really get anywhere. And the ones that do get somewhere in the community have one video that goes viral, or they have one of these larger people endorse their channel. And since people perceive a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow in the form of clout or money or whatever it may be, inevitably the types of people that get into fursuit YouTube video oftentimes are grifters of one form or another. What I mean by this is a lot of them only think about making money or only think about gaining clout. But you guys may be asking, isn't that the entire point of making content if it's basically your career? Perhaps, but when it comes to really important issues like zoo sadism and predators in general, they never seem to be around, even if the evidence is clear and whatnot. It really doesn't matter. Like, a really good example would be Kero the Wolf. The evidence against him was pretty cut and dry, yet these general furry/fursuit content creators really didn't do anything about it. So we as a community had to do the legwork of making the evidence known to the community at large. And once we got the ball rolling and made it common knowledge, oh, all of a sudden these big fursuit YouTubers swoop in and pretend that they were on our side in the first place, so they can look good to the general public and they can gain publicity. And when there aren't enough people doing the actual legwork, for example, Glitch was a literal predator, the only people who actually spoke out about this, from what I know, are people like Labrat and Ragehound, and me to a smaller effect, with all of us only being able to reach a relatively small group of people. Other small creators like us don't really have the confidence to speak out without fear of getting harassed by Glitch's hate mob. And that's why Glitch is going about his business making his shitty little videos as if nothing happened. In fact, people are so clueless about the situation that he even has a panel at Denver.
Wah! Ooh! Oh, where'd it go? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, don't forget to give me money as well. Gimme.
Yay! Yay!
Yeah, it's fine to want to have a career within the furry community, but I draw the line when a lot of these popular people use their power irresponsibly. Like when a big issue pops up, they overwhelmingly don't do anything if there's nothing that they can gain personally from the situation, or actively defend horrendous people just because they're popular as well. And maybe it's just me, but when someone has power over others, they should have some degree of responsibility to the people that they have power over. I don't think it's a very high bar for people to at least just not be accepting of predators in general, even if it's unpopular to call them out. But I guess at this point, basic ethics is still subject to the almighty grift. To be fair, every group of people within the furry community have people that create grifty content. And by this, I mean videos that are solely made to gain attention or generate money. But to be honest, I'd say general furry content seems to do this the most. Like, I can't find a single video that isn't following some kind of trend and trying to be overly sexual to gain attention, especially from minors. Like, we in the furry community, by principle, dislike products or content that's mass-produced in a sense, right? That's why we always shit on things like Wish fursuits. They're mass-produced, made by poorly paid sweatshop workers, under companies whose owners can care less about the community, except for how much money it can make them. So I really can't see why people don't want to criticize people within the community that do the exact same kinds of things. I'm not really one to judge what people should like or what people shouldn't like, but people should at least practice what they preach and be consistent. Furry commentary videos are a little different. There are a lot of people that perform some kind of grift, but there are also some people that don't. At least from what I see, most people who do watch commentary videos are a little older, so they're, I guess, more likely to avoid a lot of the BS that younger audiences from the aforementioned fursuit audience tends to be more susceptible to. So there's at least less that commentary channels usually get away with. And just to preface, I'm not saying that an older audience is completely immune to being complete idiots. Like, commentary isn't necessarily this beacon of creativity either. Oftentimes there still is a formula when it comes to making these videos. Grifts can usually be separated into a couple categories. This usually takes form in exclusively focusing on lolcows that have little to no influence, or conditionally criticizing popular people based on what they can gain from the situation. Speaking of lolcows, I mean, I don't think it's really that much of an issue to occasionally cover them. But it does become a grift when those are kind of the only people you clown, right? I mean, really, it's kind of like picking a lowest hanging fruit. You get little to no pushback and the person has high entertainment value, right? They may be super cringy people, which makes them sensational in a sense. And they may not be able to defend themselves regardless of whether they're right or wrong. And when it comes to criticizing people that are popular conditionally, I mean, I think I already explained that previously. Basically swooping into a conflict onto the winning side when the groundworks for that has already been built by people that actually care about the situation. So they really don't do any of the hard work, but they do come in to claim credit in the form of clout or money or whatever it may be, especially when they don't have any personal investment. Maybe they're not even part of the community, they're just from outside of this space completely. And if people do care about a situation, like I'm guilty of this as well, like I beat around the bush in a sense, right? Like with an elephant in a room, I may say it has a long nose, it has a spindly tail, it has big ears and so on and so forth, but me and a lot of people never say it's an elephant. Like when I criticize big people, especially when I'm alone, I'm very indirect in a sense, so I don't provoke a very big backlash. I suppose the only thing that really gave me hope within the furry commentator community was the whole glitch situation. There were at least some people that came forward and criticized them despite the material conditions being stacked against them, especially when a lot of them initially supported them, but after looking at the situation a little further, some of them sort of switched sides, right? They disassociate based on new information rather than sticking based off of some kind of blind allegiance to people with a lot of influence, or because it's easy or it's profitable to defend someone like Glitch. The furry commentary community still has a long way to go as far as this ooh fursuit forced positivity thing is concerned, but I believe that at least in some spaces, we are making some progress. Animation channels really seem to be a separate category, since a lot of them aren't that conspicuous within the community. They really don't shift dialogue from one end to another in any situation, despite how much traffic they get. With furry animation being a visual form media exclusively, I'm assuming that a large portion of their audiences tend to be on the younger side. And in my opinion, I think that animation channels do a better job of being a type of content that targets children more ethically. Like, I would honestly say that animation channels tend to be less parasocial than a lot of general furry content. Like, when watching an animation, you don't exactly get attached to a single face, if that makes sense. Especially when a lot of these videos are memes. They're typically not of a single character or personality that you're supposed to trust. And I honestly think it's a good thing. It's not exactly healthy for a younger audience to be trusting of random adults online. Since when you do, you get people like Glitch and Kero, where they really don't have any accountability. They have their fans to fall back on, when there really isn't any overwhelming pushback from the outside. Anyways, those are the 3 categories of furry content creators. If you guys think that I've missed anything, just let me know in the comments below. Anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to chat with me, I'll have my Discord link in the description below. And thanks for watching as always.